When I offered to cover the deposit for my parents' new house, my brother laughed and said, "Why would we take charity from someone like you?" I nodded, took the envelope back, and didn't say a word. I never made offers again. And they never asked why. My name is Mara. I'm 34th, middle child. Invisible in the loud house I grew up in. My brother Daniel was born first and never let us forget it. My sister Lila was the baby, the delicate one, always protected. I was the one who did the dishes, the one who kept her voice low, the one who said, "It's fine," even when it wasn't. It was my father's 65th birthday, a milestone. There was a big dinner planned, extended family, neighbors, catered food. I was invited late, by text, from my mother. It said, "If you're free, it would be nice if you came. Daniel's organizing most of it, so you probably won't need to help." I bought a ticket anyway, 12 hours, 2 layovers. I paid out of pocket. No one asked how I was getting there. No one offered a ride. I took a cab from the airport, walked the last block when the driver got lost. When I arrived, Lila opened the door. She looked me up and down and said, "You didn't bring a +1?" I hadn't. I don't have one. I brought a gift. A framed photo of my father and grandfather fishing. I restored it myself, color corrected, printed on handmade paper, custom oak frame. I handed it to him after dinner. He looked at it for a second, said, "Oh, this old thing, where'd you find it?" Then set it down on a side table. Didn't ask how I made it. Didn't thank me. Didn't touch it again. Daniel gave him a bottle of whiskey. He opened it immediately, smelled the cork, called it real man stuff. Everyone laughed. Lila gave him a mug that said, "World's okayest dad." He laughed even harder, told her she always got him. My gift sat in the corner. Dinner was catered. I helped plate the food. No one noticed. When the cake was brought out, my mother's card got declined. Daniel patted his pockets and said, "Oops, forgot my wallet." Lila laughed and said, "You always do this." I paid, silently. As I was signing the receipt, Daniel leaned over and said, "Didn't know your art hobby paid for stuff like this." Then louder to the table, "Guess starving artists aren't starving anymore." Everyone laughed, even my father, even my mother. I didn't laugh, just folded the receipt, put it in my bag. Later I was in the kitchen, washing dishes, alone. Lila came in, wearing a satin dress and shoes too tall for standing. She looked at me, then at the sink. "You're always doing this," she said, "like you're trying to earn something." I didn't answer. "You know," she added, "you'd be prettier if you did something with your hair." I turned off the tap, dried my hands. Daniel walked in, holding a half-empty glass. "Hey, Mara," he said, "remember when you wanted to be a painter?" He laughed before I could answer. "Man, I was so worried you'd end up living in Mom's basement." "I didn't," I said. "Yeah, I know," he said. "Somehow." Then winked. "To surviving the odds." My mother called from the living room. "Mara, be a dear and take the trash out." The bag was full, leaking. No one else moved. I looked at the trash. Then I looked at the door. I picked up my coat, put my hands in the pockets. The room was still full of voices, clinking glasses, small laughter. I stepped outside. It was cold, quiet. I didn't slam the door. I didn't say goodbye. I just left. Walked to the corner, booked a room at a motel near the airport, paid in cash. I took a long shower. Water was barely warm. Didn't matter. I stood in it anyway. Dried off with a towel that smelled like bleach. Sat on the edge of the bed, checked my phone. No messages. I waited an hour. Nothing. 2 hours. Nothing. I fell asleep with the light on. No one called. Next morning, I booked a new flight. One way. Didn't tell anyone. Didn't leave a note. I got to the airport early. Sat near the window. Watched planes take off. Watched people rush past. I didn't rush. I ordered coffee. Black. No sugar. I deleted our family group chat. Cleared the photos from last night. Archived the texts from my mother. Blocked Daniel. Blocked Lila. Kept the photo of the framed fishing picture. Just that. My plane was called. I stood, boarded without looking back. The sky outside the window was pale gray, the kind of color no one talks about. But I liked it. It felt honest. When the plane landed, I was somewhere else. A place where no one knew my name, where no one expected anything. I walked out of the terminal, took a breath. I didn't have a plan. But I had something better: distance, silence. No one would miss me. I was sure of that. And yet, I didn't feel small. I felt clear enough to start again. The first place I stayed after I left was a studio above a flower shop. The windows leaked in winter. The walls were paper thin. I could hear the florist humming through the floorboards. She asked if I had family nearby. I said no. She never asked again. I took a job at a bookstore, part-time, unpaid for the first month. I also picked up data entry work, midnights and weekends, just numbers, no faces. I didn't tell anyone my last name, didn't mention where I was from. No photos on the wall, no decorations, just a bed, a lamp, a hot plate, and a sketch pad. I filled it every night, shapes, lines, fonts that didn't exist yet. I called my style deliberate minimalism, but I never said that out loud. No one was asking. I lived off oatmeal and canned soup, slept 5 hours, didn't go out, didn't speak unless spoken to. On Sundays, I sat in the park with coffee, watched people walk their dogs, listened to the quiet. It was the first time silence didn't feel like punishment. One night, I saw a design contest online. Nothing major, just a logo for a nonprofit. I entered. 3 days later, I got an email. They picked mine. The prize wasn't money, just exposure. But someone saw it. A small business reached out, said they liked my style, wanted to pay. They asked what my business was called. I said plain. They liked it, said it matched me. I didn't ask what that meant. I used the money to buy software, secondhand monitor, a real desk. Every dollar went back into the work. I lived smaller so the business could grow. I made a portfolio. No bio, no face, just designs. Clean, quiet, precise. Clients came slowly, then faster. I turned down the loud ones, the ones who wanted flash and excitement. Said no to anything with glitter. They called me too serious. I didn't mind. 2 years in, I left the bookstore, kept the data job. It was silent, predictable, safe. I moved to a 1-bedroom, old building, hardwood floors, tall windows. No one came to see it. I didn't tell anyone I was moving. I got a plant. It died in 2 weeks. I didn't replace it. Instead, I filled the space with light. And silence. I never missed the noise or the people who made it. They never called, never emailed, not even for birthdays. I didn't send anything either. I removed myself from every group thread, muted every tag, turned off notifications, not out of anger, just necessity. Healing is not dramatic. It's quiet, routine, boring even. Sleep, work, walk, repeat. I ate alone, took pictures of nothing, read user manuals like novels. And still I felt better. The kind of better that doesn't need to be explained. The kind that just is. 3 years in, I had 6 clients on retainer. Built websites for people I never met. Spoke only when necessary. Delivered work early, no drama. My name, plain. Started circulating on forums. Designers called it refreshing. Startups called it premium. I raised my rates. No one objected. I hired a virtual assistant. Her name was Nyla. She lived in another city. We never met. She said I was the most consistent person she'd ever worked with. I told her thank you. That was it. Once she asked if I had family. I said, not really. She said, okay, never asked again. That same year, I got a call from an unknown number. Voicemail. It was my mother. Her voice, older, tired, said she hoped I was okay. No apology, just a few sentences. Then silence. I deleted the voicemail, didn't respond, blocked the number. It didn't hurt. It didn't feel like anything at all. That's what surprised me most. Some wounds don't scar. They just dissolve when left alone long enough. Later that month, Lila emailed me. A forward. Wedding announcement. No message attached. I didn't reply. I didn't attend. I didn't wonder who she married. Didn't wonder if I was in any of the pictures. I knew I wasn't. Daniel never reached out. Not once. That felt right. He was always the type to assume I'd come around. That I'd fold first. He was wrong. 4 years in, I had enough saved to buy a place. I didn't. I liked renting, being able to leave, quickly, quietly. I kept everything digital, no paper trail, no clutter. I didn't own much, but I owned myself. One day, a cousin emailed. Her name was Lacey. We'd shared a bedroom once, long ago, before she was sent to live with an aunt. She said she'd seen my work, knew it was me, said she was proud. I didn't answer, but I remembered her. She'd been quiet too. Sometimes I thought about sending her something. Just something small, a note, but I didn't, not yet. Then, one morning, a message from a law firm. They'd been trying to reach me. My father had passed. There was a will. They wanted me present. The reading was scheduled for the following month. I read the email twice. Then again. I sat still. The room didn't change. The light stayed the same. I made tea, opened the window, looked outside, watched the leaves move. No tears, no anger, just facts. He was gone. And they wanted me back. Not emotionally, legally. I hadn't seen any of them in 4 years. Hadn't heard their voices, hadn't thought about their birthdays. Now they wanted me in a room. A part of me didn't want to go, but another part, the quiet part, the part they never noticed, was curious. Not about the money, not about the property, about them, their faces, their voices, how they would look at me now, if they would still speak like I wasn't in the room, if they'd still laugh, or pretend they didn't remember what they did, what they said, what they never apologized for. I booked a flight, one way, not because I was staying, but because I hadn't decided what I'd come back to. I packed a carry-on, neutral clothes, clean lines, no makeup, just moisturizer, soft shoes. I left my place clean, no dishes in the sink, no lights left on, just as I'd found it. When I boarded the plane, I didn't look back. I never do. I wasn't returning to them. I was walking into the last room I'd ever need to, and this time I wouldn't be the one taking out the trash. The law firm was in a glass building downtown. 10 floors, polished, bright, the kind of place where people wear watches that don't tick. The receptionist offered coffee. I said no, sat in a chair that was too clean to be comfortable. Daniel arrived first, same haircut, same walk. His suit was expensive, but badly fitted. He didn't notice me. Then Lila, wearing white, even to a will reading. She made sure her sunglasses stayed on until the last second. Our mother came last, shorter than I remembered. She looked at me once, then looked away. No hugs, no words, just the sound of the attorney calling our names. We filed in. I sat on the far end, didn't take off my coat. The lawyer read the document slowly. Estate details, the house, the car, the accounts. Daniel was mentioned first. He got the cabin, the one in the mountains that only he ever used. Lila got the jewelry, even the pieces I remembered handing my father on his birthday. Our mother retained the house. Of course, my name came last. There was a pause before it. I saw Lila glance at me. Tamara, the lawyer read, who always walked her own path. I leave the contents of my safe and the rights to my unfinished manuscript. There was silence. Daniel cleared his throat. Lila blinked. My mother said nothing. The manuscript was real. I'd edited it once when I was 17, quietly, while Daniel watched TV, while Lila painted her nails. My father never thanked me, but he always gave me the new pages, only me. Now it was mine, all of it. The lawyer handed me a folder, thick, black cover, my name embossed on the label. No one said a word. Afterwards, in the hallway, Daniel pulled me aside. Hey, listen. He didn't finish the sentence. I waited. You doing okay? He asked, like it was a test. I nodded, didn't return the question. He rubbed his neck. Didn't expect you to show. I looked him in the eye. I did. That was all. He shifted. Listen, I'm trying to refinance the place. The cabin. Bank stuff's a nightmare. He smiled, tight, fake. You ever think about investing? I didn't answer. He kept talking. Just temporary, bridge funding, family helping family, right? I opened my folder, looked at the papers, then closed it. He took that as a maybe, nodded, patted my arm, left. Lila found me outside, smoking something expensive, holding her coat like a cape. You've changed, she said. I had. She hadn't. I like your look, she added. Minimalist, very you. She asked what I did now. I said design, didn't elaborate. She said she was starting a wellness brand, asked if I could make her a logo. For exposure, she added, laughing like it was a joke. I didn't laugh, didn't agree, didn't decline, just let her keep talking. Eventually, she ran out of things to say. She flipped her hair, walked back to her car. I stood there, alone again. But not small. My mother didn't approach me. She left through the side door, with her lawyer. Later that week, I received a dinner invite. Handwritten, from her. Said she wanted to talk? That family should reconnect. I put the card on the table, didn't reply. I visited the storage unit where my father kept his things. Opened the safe. It smelled like dust and metal. Inside, notebooks, photos, a voice recorder, and one envelope, with my name on it, in his handwriting. I didn't open it, not yet. I took the contents home, cataloged every item, labeled every notebook, scanned the manuscript, noted every margin comment, every unfinished paragraph. He'd written things I didn't expect, about silence, about daughters, about regret. None of it was addressed to me, but all of it felt like mine. I found a publisher, an independent one. They said the draft had promise. They asked if I'd edit it, finish it. I said yes. Quiet revenge begins with quiet work. That week, Daniel emailed again, said the bank was being aggressive, said he might lose the cabin, said he knew I had the means. He was right. I did. I said no, just that. No explanation, no apology. He replied with silence. That was new for him. Lila followed up about her logo, sent color palettes and fonts she found online, said she couldn't pay much now but would make it up to me later. I didn't respond. She sent a second message. Please, it would mean a lot. I archived it, marked her address as spam. A week later, my mother called. New number, I let it ring. She left a voicemail, said she hoped I was doing well, said she was sorry if she ever made me feel unwanted. She said if. I deleted the message, not because I was angry, but because I was done. Done giving people the benefit of the doubt, done filling in their blanks, done answering questions they never asked directly. The manuscript was published 6 months later, under his name, with my edits, my structure, my cover design. It sold well. Critics called it unexpectedly intimate. Said the daughter character felt real. I didn't correct them. The author's estate earned more in 6 months than it had in 6 years. The royalties came to me. Daniel never brought up the cabin again. Lila unfollowed me. My mother sent a Christmas card that I didn't open. None of them asked how I was. They only asked for what they thought I had. I wasn't angry. I just wasn't theirs anymore. I had given them so many chances to see me. They had chosen not to. And I had learned that the quietest revenge is being unreachable. Not because you hide, but because you rise so far above they can no longer reach you. The manuscript kept selling. Book clubs picked it up. Professors emailed me for permission to use it in their courses. No one in my family said a word. Not about the money, not about the writing, not about me. But they knew. I knew they knew. Lacey wrote again. The cousin they all forgot. Said she saw my name in the acknowledgments. Said thank you. I sent her a check. Not big, just enough. To pay off a credit card. To breathe. I didn't include a note. She didn't need one. She understood. Daniel sent one last message. Said he was selling the cabin. Said he hoped I'd consider buying it for old time's sake. I didn't answer, didn't need to. Some people mistake silence for hesitation, but I don't hesitate. I had already bought something else, a house, not in the city, not near them, near the coast, on a quiet hill, big windows, no neighbors. I didn't need it. I just liked the silence. The money I would have used to help Daniel, I used it to fund scholarships, anonymous donations, for girls in rural schools who liked to draw. I made sure none of the programs had my family's name. That was the point. Lila's business failed. Too many partnerships, not enough planning. She emailed again, said she could use some advice, said she knew I'd understand. I let the message sit for 2 weeks. Then I wrote 2 words. Ask someone. She didn't write back. My mother sent a letter. Paper, cursive handwriting, 3 pages. She said she was sorry, said she missed me, said she hoped we could start fresh. I folded the letter once, put it in a drawer, didn't answer, didn't return it, didn't destroy it either. Some things don't need a response, just closure. I updated my will, left nothing to them, not out of spite, but because they already took more than they ever gave. I left it all to people who never asked, the assistant who never complained, the florist who once offered me tea, the cousin who was grateful without being greedy. People who knew how to exist without demanding attention, without draining me. I didn't write angry clauses, didn't include insults or warnings, just names, clean, precise, quiet. When I turned 40, I didn't tell anyone. No party, no messages, no cake. I took a walk, fed a stray cat, bought myself a hardcover book and didn't read it, just held it. I went 10 years without hearing Daniel's voice, 12 without seeing Lila, 15 without touching my mother's hand. I didn't miss them, not in the way people mean when they say it. I remembered them. But that's not the same. They weren't bad people. They just weren't my people, not anymore. They had raised me in a house where the quiet one was the forgotten one. They never expected the quiet one to build an empire in silence, to make choices with precision, to disappear without slamming the door and never come back. When people ask about my family now, I say I had one. That's enough. I didn't burn bridges. I just stopped walking back.